guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I am going to be talking all about how to master mindful eating. If you guys are new around here, my name is Becca. I am a registered dietitian and I am obviously very passionate about nutrition, but I am equally as passionate about learning how to eat intuitively. I have an entire playlist here on my channel for you guys to check out. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to master mindful eating specifically at a meal. So if you are brand new to the idea of eating intuitively, listening to your body's own cues and ditching outside rules or, meal plans or anything like that, this is going to be a really great place to start because you can literally take these tips and start using them at your next meal that you eat today. I am super passionate about educating on this style of eating because one, it's just kind of how our bodies were made. We have all of these systems in place and feedback loops and fullness cues and hunger cues and all of this that basically help us to eat well, but food can bring so much joy and satisfaction to our lives, but we are typically too busy or just way too disconnected from learning outside tools and trying to follow other diets and all of these things that kind of take us out of our body and out of our mind when it comes to eating. And we just kind of lose touch with our actual body's cues. And this can make it really difficult to not only just eat well, but eat in a way that is very satisfying and in a way that there aren't a lot of rules and in a way that food doesn't stress you out. Allowing yourself to enjoy food, but also eat in a way that does make you feel good. So finding or at least pursuing that balance, that's truly what mindful or intuitive eating is. So I have 6 tips for you guys to implement at your next meal in order to make it mindful. Step number 1 is to remove all distractions, especially screens. So scrolling through your phone, watching TV, eating while sitting at your computer, maybe doing some work. Those are all designed to literally take us out of our body and to make us zone out. So we do not want to be doing that. So if you are in the habit of eating while watching TV or eating while scrolling your phone, just know that I have totally been there. And it's really hard. You want to check in or you want to watch that show and this is like your time to be on screens. But if you want to truly be a mindful eater, you have got to stop that. Now, this does not have to be forever. You can, learn how to eat mindfully to the point where it's second nature and you can be maybe watching a show or checking your phone while eating. This is not a forever thing, but if you are not very good at being in tune with your body, they have got to go while you get that skill down. Tip number 2 might seem like a simple one, but it really makes a difference, and that is to actually look at your plate and look at your food. Again, we tend to zone out. We live such fast-paced lifestyles. Maybe we're not looking at a screen, but maybe we're thinking about the next thing that we're gonna do and all of these things that we have to do. Or, we're thinking about just things, again, that take us out of the experience, take us out of our bodies, and we're not really paying attention to our food. So physically look at your plate, watch the amounts of food diminish on your plate, pay attention and actually look at your food. Again, this sounds so silly, but if you're not in the habit of doing this, you're probably going to realize, wow, okay, I never even really pay attention to my food. Like, I don't even really pay attention to eating at all. And tip number 3 kind of piggybacks off of tip number 2, and that is to really pay attention to what you're eating. How does it taste? What does the mouth feel? What does it smell like? All of these things really get your senses involved. And again, I know that this probably sounds silly, but if you are someone who is more of a distracted eater instead of a mindful eater, you are missing out on a lot of this experience, and paying attention to these what may seem like small or obvious things really, really help bring you in and just have you be more mindful of what you're actually eating. Okay, tip number 4 is a big one, and that is to just slow down while you're eating. So many of us, because we're busy or we're distracted, we just tend to kind of scarf down our food. We're not fully paying attention to what we're eating, and the whole meal just goes very quickly, much more quickly than it probably should. And keep in mind, it can take up to 20 minutes to feel like peak fullness from a meal. So if you are starving down a huge meal in like 5 to 10 minutes, you kind of are shooting yourself in the foot as far as being able to tap into your own fullness cues, because you're finishing the meal before your body is even allowed to tell you how full it is, if that makes sense. And you know, while overeating is not a bad thing, nothing terrible is going to come out of that if it's happening here and there. That's okay if it happens, but if you're always overeating, I mean, then you're just uncomfortably full, and that's also not something that we're shooting for, especially if you want to be someone who is very mindful when it comes to eating. So I know just saying slow down, I mean, that's obvious, but I actually have some very specific actions for you guys to take to actually help you to slow down. These are all things that I implemented back years ago when I was trying to relearn how to connect with my food and be way more mindful of actually eating. So the first one is just to put your fork down or your utensil down or the food down. So if you're eating soup with a spoon, actually put the spoon down every few bites or whatever. If you're eating a slice of pizza, actually put the slice of pizza down on your plate before picking it back up again to continue. What this does is it actually just kind of breaks the hand-to-mouth motion that we can very easily just kind of get in the zone, and that is another way for us to kind of zone out. I find sometimes, even today, if I'm, maybe a little bit distracted and all of a sudden I'm not even paying attention, I'll put my fork down and it just kind of helps me to reset and get my mind back in it. Next is to just take a deep breath. Again, sometimes we're thinking of other things, we're distracted. That is a way to bring us back into the present moment and to focus on what we're actually doing, which is eating the meal in front of us. Along with taking some deep breaths, it's also a good idea to kind of just do a real quick check-in with your emotions when you sit down to eat, which might sound silly, but if you've ever been like really angry or really stressed and you're just a little bit in a tizzy, and then you go to eat and you're just eating so fast that you're not even paying attention to what you're doing. Again, emotions are another thing that can distract us from being very mindful, and it's just a good idea to kind of check in. If you're feeling really stressed or maybe you're feeling really rushed, and you're not actually in a rush to be somewhere, then take a deep breath, check in, try and release that feeling so that you can slow down and pay attention and really experience your meal. Another thing, kind of like putting your fork down, if you have a drink, some water or whatever it is, a beverage, take a sip of it. It's another way to kind of break that just hand-to-mouth motion that we can just kind of get in the zone. And it's just another way for us to kind of reset and take a minute and take a beat so that we can pay attention and kind of feel our own fullness. And lastly, again, this might sound silly, but it's really important, and that is to sit down when you eat. When you are standing up, you are automatically not nearly as relaxed as when you are in a seated position, sitting in a chair, at a table, or whatever. So you really need to sit down. I sometimes, being a busy mom, there are times when I just stand at the counter and I eat my lunch because there's 15 million things going on. That's okay, it happens, but I notice that I am eating way more quickly. I'm not really paying attention to my food. I'm aware that this is happening. Again, sometimes it happens, but it does make a huge difference when you sit down to just slow down, calm down, and experience the meal. These little mini tips within tip 4 might sound really silly, but I'm telling you, if you're used to just zoning out when you eat and you're not very mindful, these can be pretty challenging. So these are all really good things to put into practice. Even if they seem silly, just give them a try. Tip number 5 is to analyze and to tap into how your stomach is actually feeling while you're eating so that you can assess fullness. If you are someone who's very out of touch with your cues, which a lot of people are, you might not even really know what it feels like to be comfortably full. You might just eat to the point where you're always a little bit too stuffed, and it can be really kind of hard to dial it back and learn, okay, when I'm starting to feel this amount of fullness, starting to get to a comfortable fullness, this is when I need to start slowing down in order to not get to the point of feeling stuffed. So if the goal is just comfortable fullness, when you start to feel more satisfied, that hunger is dissipating, that's when you really want to start paying attention to, okay, I should be slowing down, maybe putting my fork down more, take a few sips of my drink to really pay attention so I can get to kind of that sweet spot of I'm feeling satisfied, probably just gonna take, a few more bites or whatever it is to reach that comfortable fullness level. And just a little tip for you guys, high fat meals, fat actually takes the longest to be recognized by the stomach. So if you're eating a very high fat meal, that is where you can tend to possibly overeat the most because you're consuming a lot of fat in a short period of time, and it's just going to take longer for your stomach to really recognize it. So it's just something to keep in mind if you're having a really high fat meal. Again, this is not a rule, just a guideline that if you're sitting down and you're having a burger and fries and a milkshake, you might want to eat that just a little bit slower or be extra mindful if you're trying to avoid that feeling of just being overstuffed. Tip number 6 is a simple one, but it's a really good cue for your brain. And that is when you're finished, when you're feeling comfortably full, when you're actually truly satisfied with the meal, just push your plate away a little bit. And again, this is not something that you're going to necessarily need to do forever, but I know for me, when I was learning to get reacquainted with my cues, it really helped me because I was not very good at just stopping at that comfortable full point. If my food is still sitting underneath of me, I'm just kind of used to just finishing my plate. Growing up, I was always part of the clean plate club. My parents would congratulate me if I finished my plate and cheer me on to finish or take more bites and good job, you finished all your food. All of those messages, when they're instilled into your brain, they can be really hard to peel back and unlearn. So for me, it was just I had this desire no matter what, even if I'm really full, it was just this primal thing. I just wanted to finish my plate. I just always wanted to finish my plate, even if I'm really full and I don't necessarily want more food. So for me, it was really helpful to, okay, I've reached that comfortable fullness. I think I'm gonna stop now. I'm just gonna go ahead and push away my plate. And it was just a way for me to signal I am actually done. I'm feeling good. I don't need any more food at this point in time. There's always more food. I can get more food later, whatever I need. But right now I'm comfortably full, so I am just going to finish this meal by pushing my plate away. So those are my 6 tips that you can implement at your next meal today. Now I just want to say, this is super important. The reality is you're not going to do this perfectly every time, and that is not the goal. Will you always perfectly implement these tips? And even when they become second nature, will you eat a perfectly mindful meal every time? Absolutely not. And is that okay? Yes, it absolutely is. I want you guys to take these tips as kind of guidance to send you in the right direction and to help you get reacquainted with your body and with your cues and your own signals that your body is trying to send to you. There is so much pressure and rules around eating these days. I mean, you can find any kind of diet, any kind of rule about when to eat, how much to eat, and all different things that you can use to control what and how you're eating. That is not my goal here. I want to do the opposite. I want you to ditch all of that, dogma or whatever it is, and actually just get back in touch with your own body through using these tips. And eventually, you're not even going to be needing these tips. You don't even need me, right? You're off to the races. You have learned to mindfully eat. And truly, that to me is the biggest accomplishment when it comes to leading a healthy lifestyle as far as food goes, because your body is the best compass, okay? Because our appetites are not stagnant. The kind of foods that we like is not always going to be the same. So if you can learn how to tap into your own cues to eat in a way that's very satisfying for you, that you don't feel like you have to cut all these things out in order to be healthy, but you can still eat a lot of really healthy, whole, real food so that you actually feel really good at the same time, that is when you've truly hit the jackpot. Being mindful is not equal to following rules. It's actually the opposite. It's following your own body, your own cues, and like I said, this is truly the best thing that you can equip yourself with when it comes to healthy eating throughout a lifetime, because you're going to go through many different phases. Your body is going to change. Your appetites are going to fluctuate. It's not always going to be the same. So stop trying to apply a certain list or certain guidelines or certain rules to every single meal when it's always going to be a little bit different. So if you can actually just follow your own cues every time, you can get really close to doing a real good job as far as being mindful and eating well without having to really focus and follow something that is strict and laid out for you. Okay, you guys, that is all I have for this video. I hope that you found it helpful. This to me was life-changing when I learned to eat this way many years ago, and it's not a diet. It's not something that you're gonna have to keep coming back to. My goal for anyone watching this video who wants to learn how to eat intuitively, I hope that you don't need me, okay? I hope that you don't need to watch my videos anymore, because that means that you've actually reached the point of being able to be out in the world and listen to your body and follow your own compass. Diets are the exact opposite. They want you to keep coming back. They're essentially setting you up for failure so that they can keep making money off of you, is really what it comes down to. So you have the power to ditch all of that. You have the power to eat in a way that is going to make you feel good, but also allow you to enjoy food and just reap ultimate satisfaction out of the eating experience. So that is all I have for this video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching it. I hope that you will take these tips, instill them, and find them helpful, and maybe even find them as life-changing as they have been for me. If you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would absolutely love for you to hit that subscribe button, join my little community here on YouTube. Also follow me on Instagram. I'm just at Becca Bristow. You can find me on there as well. But that's all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!